Got to go. Okay, we're at the Mishnah on Kuf Mem Daled on base. So we're going to be talking about the concept of a shushbinus. There's a concept that when it sounds interesting that when someone is invited to a chasana and he comes to the chasana, he gives a gift. There's an expectation, and as we see in the Mishnah, is even midrabanan. He's the person who received the gift is then required to reciprocate. He has to then go to the other person's wedding. When he goes to the other person's wedding, he has to give him a gift. He has to pay him back with a gift. And as we're going to see in the Mishnah, this is enforceable in Bezdin. That if you got a gift, you got to pay back a gift. It's interesting, no?
It's very interesting.
Yeah, we're going to get into it. I don't think we have this minig. It's based on custom. It's based on expectations. There was a very strong expectation back then, so that was enforceable in Bezdin. Let's see. If there were brothers that some of them, the father gave them money to go and attend other people's weddings while he was alive. If later on the person who the father gave his children money and told them go to a wedding, when those children later make a wedding, and the person who received the gift now has to return the favor, it goes la'emtza. If the father's not alive, it doesn't go to the particular son who attended the wedding, but the father was the sponsor of the first gift, so the requirement to pay back the gift is to the father, and therefore it goes to the estate as a whole, not to that particular son who attended the wedding. And the Mishnah says, "Shahashushbinus nigmas v'bezdin." The reason why it goes to the estate and not to the particular son who's making a wedding now is because this din of shushbinus, this din of paying back a gift, is something that's enforceable in Bezdin. So it's a real chayv. It's not just you choosing to give a gift, and you can give it to whoever you want. You're returning the favor. So the father is the one who paid for the original gift, so you have to pay it back.
There's a sort of almanas. There's no shidduch crisis.
You have to expect the second guy is going to get married. Yeah. This is the pashta pshat in the Mishnah. The Gemara is going to have a very different pshat in it, which is not like the lashon of the Gemara. We're talking about the din of a shushbina, which is that when someone makes a wedding and he receives a gift, when the person who gave him the gift later makes a wedding, the person who got the gift is required to give a gift back in return. That's at least the value of the first person, and it's enforceable in Bezdin. This is not applied to when you get invited to a wedding. This is the minhag back in the times of the Gemara. That I guess that was the economy. You couldn't make a wedding if people didn't give gifts. As we're going to see later on, it's tied into how much food you got at the wedding. Yeah. So let's
apply to
it. Yeah. This is the Mishnah. Shashushbinis nigvis bezdin, because this din of shushbinim of paying is enforceable in Bezdin. If someone just sends a gift to a person's wedding, he sends back a response. God says, "I can't attend, but I'm sending you some wine and some oil as a gift." Ein nigvin bebezdin. That is the reciprocation of that is not included. That's stam a gift, meaning part of it is that the person who's providing the gift has to also go and attend the wedding. And it has to be in the form of a shushbinin. Zak Rashi, let us see the Rishbam. He doesn't go to the chuppah. Or even if he went to the actual wedding, but he doesn't participate in the meal. That is just a gift. It's part of the thing is you have to go to the wedding and you give a gift when you come attend the wedding, the other person has to also come and attend the wedding and provide you with the gift. Right, so we might say that the harder part is being required to go to the wedding than to actually give the gift.
Loud music and
Yeah, it's painful. Parking. So we said in the Mishnah that if a father had sponsored to pay the gift, and then he died, the father died, and now the person who received the gift is paying it back, it doesn't go to the son who actually attended the wedding with the father's sponsorship, but rather it goes to the state as a whole. But no effect when it's chayzer, it doesn't go to the emtza, it doesn't go to the state, but it goes to the one that the father had sent with the gift. If on the other hand, the father, when he got married, someone had sent the father a gift. When the father has to pay because he was given a gift, that comes from the estate. It doesn't come from any one of the brothers. So it's shver, right? This Mishnah, the first part of this brayse is saying that when the father sends someone with the shushminas, it goes back to the one who actually attended with the father's sponsorship, not to the emtza, not to the estate as a whole, which is not like our Mishnah. He says our Mishnah is not talking about where the father had previously sent, and we're talking about returning to him. We're talking the other way around, where the father had previously gotten, and now the father is the one who has to pay. But that's not what the Mishnah said. It said if some of the sons were made shushbinas, meaning their father appointed them to give a gift. Instead of saying sha'asu miksasan, it says sha'asu limiksasan. That means some of them had made to them that they were given shushbinas. But it says the shushbinas returns. It's meaning that the father was the one receiving the gift now, not the one who's giving it. But it means the other way around. No, when they come back, not to give the gift to the father, but rather they're coming to get from the father. Nigus me'amsa, it comes from the amsa, like it said in the brayse. So that's one teretz of how to answer this tira. Basi amalei kasha. That we say that it goes by emtza, like it says in our Mishnah. Is where the father had given it stam. He didn't appoint any particular son to go to the wedding in the first place. So it goes back stam also. But the case of the brayse is where he said, here's money, here's $100, and go to the wedding to one son. So then that son is the one who will get the return shushbinas. Kedatanya, if the father sent a son with shishminas, when it returns, it goes, when the shishminas comes back, when it's reciprocated, it goes to that particular son. But if the father didn't send this particular son, he said, here's $100 for the wedding, but he didn't say that you should go and bring it. If it returns and the father's not alive, it goes into the estate, and then it gets divided up amongst all of the sons. That's the second teretz. Shmuel Amar, Shmuel makes it very complicated. He says, we're talking about over here with the son who had brought the original wedding gift, right? So Yaakov was the father, and he sent Ruvain to go bring the wedding gift, but Ruvain died. So then, and Ruvain brought it, and so now Ruvain is obligated, like we said in the brayse, he's the one who's supposed to get back the shushbinas. Right? We said if the father specified one kid, that's the one who gets it back, like it said in the brayse. But then Ruvain died. So now the question is, who gets that shushbinas? So we're talking about Ruvain died, and he had a brother Shimon, and he had no daughters. So he had no children, Ruvain. He had no kids. So therefore, his wife is Neifel Liyibum to Shimon. And the din is, if someone is Miyabim, his brother's wife, he's Yairish that brother. So now Shimon is yarshining the rights to get the shushbinas. This very complicated case, right? Reuben was supposed to be the one to get back the return shushbinas when he went to this wedding, but he died, and now Shimon is the one who's yarshening him, and he wants to claim that Shushbinas. So we're saying the din of a yavam is that when someone yarshins because he married his dead brother's wife, he only gets actual money that the yavam had, but not a potential chiyuv, a potential obligation. And this chiyuv of reciprocating a gift is only a potential. The Gemara asks, but this doesn't work in the general rules of Shushbinas. If someone's a yavam, that means he died, right? He died, and his wife is getting married to someone else. But that means now l'chayra, when a person gets married, that's when the Shushbinas is given. It's given at the time, like he attends the wedding, and then you give the Shushbinas. But if Reuven had already gotten married, and that's why his wife when he dies, his wife is married to Shimon, so the Shushbinas should have already come to him. So why are we saying Shimon yarshan the Shushbinas? It already should have been given. So must be that Reuven did not have a chance to get married. It must have been, let's say, that Reuven died while he was Mukudeshes, before the Nesuin. Lema. So in that case, let the person who was obligated to provide the Shushbinas, Tnuli Shushbani Vasamachimai. Let him say, the whole din of Shushbinas, that I have to respond and give back a gift because you came, and go to your wedding because you came to my wedding and gave me a gift, that's only if you're around. But if you're dead, I'll say, listen, you're not here. Why should I? You're not making a wedding. Why do I have to pay? We have a similar din that if someone is obligated to do something, but the reason why he's obligated is no longer there, doesn't have to do so. For example, a man who married a woman, and as we're going to see, if she's no longer, if he's no longer, and he gave her, let's say, $1,000 as kesef kedusha, and he dies before they could do nisuin, as we're going to see in this brisa, she can tell him, listen, she could tell his yarshim, I don't have to give back the kesef kedushin because there was no nisuin. He didn't show up to the wedding. And let's see how the Gemara says it. If you show up to the wedding, I'll give you. If you would show up, I would get married. You're not getting married because you died, because he died. So why should I have to pay it back? So again, the Brisa says, "Malkum shenogul lahachzir kedushin machzir." A place where the minig is that the woman has to return the kesef kedushin. You return it. Malkum shenogul shalachzir ein machzir. They explain the circumstance. When's that true? That which it depends on the minig. It's talking about where she died. She got $1,000 as kesef kedushin, and then she died before the nisuin. So then it will depend on the minig of the place of whether she is then obligated to return the kedushin. Do we say that he only gave it to her al tonight that there was going to be a nisuin, and now there's no nisuin, she's obligated to give it back, or not? That will depend on minig. What did he have in mind? Aval meis who? But if the husband died, ein machzirin. In that case, she certainly doesn't have to return it. My time. Why is it? Again, the same theory, like we said, like by the reciprocating gift. Just like we say, if the person who's making the simcha now, he dies, and therefore he's not able to make the simcha, the person who doesn't have to reciprocate the gift, because he said, I'm willing to come to the wedding, but unfortunately you died, and therefore there's no wedding. The same thing by Isha who got married, who made kedushin, and now she can't have nisuin because the husband died. She doesn't have to pay it back. She say, if you show up, I'm willing to go through with the nisuin. So the same theory would happen here. So Amar Rav Yosef, so l'chayra, how could we say that we're talking about a yavam, and that's the reason why he doesn't pay it back directly, but it goes to the emsa? We're talking about where Reuven already he had gotten married, there was Nisuin, and they made the whole chasana, and they had the 7 days of celebrating. But at that point, that's when Reuven died, and that's why the person who had given the gift, who had received the gift earlier, he has to pay it back. That's what was saying, that this particular, he's even though it's owed to him, it's going to go le'emtza, because this particular person, this Yerush, he is entitled to it. You can't say because he was mesameach, he did make the chasna, and it is owed. But since it's only owed, the Yerush, the Yavam, cannot demand it for himself. Okay, so now we're going to go off on this concept of Tnuli Baili Vasameachima, whether someone, and particularly in this case of Kedushin, this question of whether someone could say, if you were to follow through with the simcha, I would be available, and therefore you can't demand from me the return of the kesef kedushin. Let's say it's a machlekes tanaim, the Tanya. Ha'ma'aras isha, someone who's ma'aras an isha, he does kedushin to an isha, and he's not able to follow through with the nesuin. We're going to see why. Besula gaiva masayim v'almana mana. If she's a psula, she gets 200 zuz, and if she's an almana, she gets 100 zuz for the ksuba. That's the ksuba. If he dies or if he divorces her, malkum shenogu lahachze kedushin machzir. In addition, if it's a place that the minig is that she has to give back the kesef kedushin, so she's going to have to give it back, even though she's getting the ksuba, but she has to give back the kesef kedushin. A place where that's not the minig, she doesn't have to return a divrei Reb Nosson. Reb Nosson would say, but if it's a place that the minig is not to return the kesef kedushin, not only does she get the ksuba, depending on whether she's a psula, almana, whatever that amount is, she also keeps the kesef kedushin. That's Reb Nosson. Yehuda says it depends on what the minig is. What's the difference? He just repeated the same din, that it's going to depend whether the woman has to give back, the woman that's mukadashis and doesn't get married, whether she has to return it is dependent on the minig. So how is it any different than Tanakama? It must be that the machlekes between the Tanak, Reb Nosson and Reb Yehuda Hanasi, is in this question of whether she has to give back the kedushin in a case where the husband is not showing up for the nesuin because Nebuchadnezzar died, and whether she could say, "Listen, I'm ready to go get ahead and get married, so you don't have a right to ask for the kedushin." You're gonna have to add in some words into that price of halchtani. If someone is maras isha psula and then he divorces her or dies, or she died, or he died, the psula gets 200 zuz and almana gets 100 zuz. Medva mamurim dahada be'iyu. That's where he changed his mind. He decided to divorce her before the nesuin. Aval mesa. But if she died, then malkum shenogul hachzer machzir, malkum shenogul shlel hachzer a machzir. The Tanakh will say then it's going to depend on the minute. But dafka shemesahi. That's only if she died. Aval mesu a machzir. But if he was the one who died, then it doesn't make a difference what the minig is. She doesn't have to return it. My time yechayli shetiyomer truly the ba'ili v'asameachim. So the Tanakh will say it doesn't. The only time we're going to go into the minig is where she dies. But if the husband dies, then she certainly doesn't have to return the kedushin because she could say, "I'm ready to perform my part of the deal." Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi is arguing that Emes Amru ain't bein meis hu bein meisahi. It doesn't make it. If she died, Magum shonagul lahachser machzir, Magum shaloi lahachser a machzir. V'loy matzasam truly ba'al v'asameach imay. And of course, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold of that she always has a taina that she could say, I would have celebrated, even if he's the one who died. She has to. In the end, she wasn't able to fulfill her obligation when she got mekudeshes. It means the money of the kedushin was also intended that she should do an asuin, and since she didn't do an asuin, she has to return the kesef kedushin. So that is what the Gemara wants to say. This is a l'chayra. This is a machlekes tanoim. This question of Tunuli Baili Vasamech. So the Gemara loy doesn't have to be. That doesn't have to be machlekes of Rav Nosson and Yehuda Nosson. The Kuli Alma Yichaylish the Alma Tunuli Baili Vasamech. Everyone, even the Rabbi Yehuda Nossi agrees that you say Tunuli Baili Vasamech. Or the Mesu Kuli Amalei Pligi. And if he was the one who died, everyone would agree that she doesn't have to give back the Kesef Kedushin. Ki Pliga Shemesahi. The question is when she died. They're arguing about whether when someone gives a Kedushin, doesn't mean under all circumstances does a person give a Kedushin without any Tnayim, without any he wants to be very romantic when he gives his Kedushin. It's for better, for worse, in sickness or health. And even if she's unable to fulfill her obligation with the Nisuin because she died, it's not retractable. It's not refundable.
Irrevocable.
Irrevocable, yeah. Rav Nosson Sava Kedushin Lavatuin. Rav Nosson holds when you give Kedushin, it's not irrevocable. It depends on the circumstances. So if she dies, then she has to give it back. Her Yarshim have to give back. Yehuda Nossi Sava Kedushin Lutivu Nitnu. How could you say that if Yehuda Anasi says Kedushin that Rav Nosson Sava Kedushin La I'm sorry, that Yehuda Anasi says Sava Kedushin Lutivu Nitnu, it's irrevocable. We said a makom, that place that's they're not the minig is to be machzer it, you are machzer it. It sounds like it's not irrevocable. Certainly, the Kesef Kedushin is always going. That was never discussed by Rav Nosson and Rabbi Yehuda. That which he said that you can, that she might have to return because it's Kedushin is. I'm sorry. Even Rav Yehuda Hanasi, who says that Kedushin l'tivun, and once it's given, it's irrevocable. When he said Makom Shenogel Hachsa Machzin, he wasn't talking about the Kesef Kedushin. He was talking about the Savloinus, which are different types of gifts that are given to an Isha at the time of the Kedushin. Those depends on what the minig is. Sometimes they get returned, like the engagement ring, or she gets the bracelet. I don't know. I think she gets a bracelet or a watch. So those things that are not part of the actual Kesef Kedushin, the Kesef Kedushin is given irrevocably. But these gifts are not. That's going to depend on the minute. Bahani Tanoi Kahani Tanoi. This machlekes Tanoim of Kedushin l'tevon nitnu is like another machlekes Tanoim. The Tanya. Kitcha b'kikar. If someone's a kaddish and isha with a kikar, which is 25 din zav, each din zav is 100 zuz. So 2,500 zuz. The sula, and then he dies or divorces. So psula goiver masayim. A psula gets 200, and Amana gets a mana. Divri Reb Meir. Yehuda Aimer psula goiver masayim Amana machzeres lo yisashar. So according to the Reb Meir, she gets, in addition, keeping that 2,500, she also gets another 100 or 200, depending if she's a psula or almana. Yehuda Aimer psula goiver masayim Amana machzeres lo yisashar. She only gets the ksuba, but the other 2,500 she has to give out. Well, if she got 2,500 as kedushin, she gets to keep. If she's a almana, she keeps 100 of it. She has to give back 2,400. If she's a psula, she keeps 200. She has to give back 2,300. We're going to explain exactly what that math is. If he was mekadosh with 20 shkalim, which is 80 zuzim, he has to give him shloishim chatzayim. He has to give her 30 half shkalim, which is 60 zuz, and he's kitchev shloishim with 30, which is 120 zuz. Noisa esim chatzayim, which is 20 zuz. We're going to see exactly what that cheshbon is in a minute. So before we get back to Rabbi Yossi, we say, "B'may askin, what is this case? Ilay mishamesa If we're talking about where she died, Misla Ksuba, and she doesn't get a Ksuba at all. Can't be talking where she died. She died. We're talking about getting 100 or 200. There's no Ksuba for a woman who died. It's only when he died. That he died. We concluded before that everyone agrees that if he dies, she could say, listen, I'm ready to get married, and you're not getting married, so I don't have to give back the Kesef Kedushin. Ve'ela be'eshis Yisrael, shezinsa. Elamai, it's Eishis Yisrael, and she was Mizana, and therefore they can't go through with the Kedush, with the Nesuin. Somewhat Nisha, who's a shezinsa, is also Labaila. He can't marry her. But what's the case? Iberotzen, again, if it's where she was Mizana, where she was acquiesced, it was intentionally Misla Ksuba, and again, she doesn't get a Ksuba if she's Mizana on her husband after she's in Kedeshes. She's already married. It's also she's an Eishes, and if she's Mizana, she loses a Ksuba. Bella ba'onis, Elamai, she was Mizana ba'onis, someone forced her. Mishish Sharle, if he's a Yisrael, he could marry her. There's no issa to marry a woman who was forced against her will. So he has no excuse for not going through with the Nesuin. Bella ba'ishes koyin nens. I don't know, we're talking about who was Makadash, and then she was Kedushin Latiba Nitna. Bryce is the same achlekes. Remeir saw Kedushin Latiba Nitna. Remeir says that when you get Kedushin, it's irrevocable, and therefore, even though she's not able to follow through, she's also to him because she was Zinsa and he's a Kayan, she's still gets to keep the Kesef Kedushin. Yehuda saw a lot of Tmunin. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it depends on the circumstance. Since over here, even though it's not her fault, it wasn't her intention, but in the end, she's unable to follow through and marry him. Therefore, he gets back the Kesef Kedushin. Now, and Rabbi Yossi was the interesting one. Rabbi Yossi Misafkale, he's not sure of who the halacha is like, whether she has to give back the Kesef Kedushin. The Hilcha. Kitcha be'esrim, if you're in the Kaddish with esrim, which is equal to 80 zuz, right? And the question now is, does he have to give it back? And now so it's a misupik of whether she has to give it back to him. So she really owes him 40 back, right? He was Makadasha with 80, and we're not sure if she has to give it back. So you do it in half. So half of it, she has to give back half, and half she could keep. So Noisan law, Shloishim Chatzoyin. He has to give her 30 half shekels. A shekel is 4 zuz. So he's giving her 40 half shekels. So 30 of 2 zuz, which is 60. Because, right, she got 80, but she has to return 40 to him. But he owes her kedushin. I'm sorry, he owes her a ksuba, because it's not her fault that he's not able to marry her, that he has to give her a get. So he'll give her a get, and now with that get, he owes her 100. She owed him 40 back from the original 80. So 100 minus 40 is 60. So we're saying he has to give her 60 zuz in order to make her whole. You got the math? One more time?
Yeah.
Okay. He was Makadosh her with 80 zuz, right? That he can make you Makadosh with whatever he wants, but that's what he chose to be Makadosh with. But now it's a suffix of whether she's entitled to keep it or not. So she really owes him back 40 of those 80 zuz. But now he's divorcing her. When he divorces her, he has to pay her ksuba. The ksuba, we're talking about an almana, is 100 zuz. So now he owes her 100 zuz, but she owes him 40 zuz. So the net is that he now owes her 60 zuz. She keeps the 40 zuz that he owes him back, and he has to give an additional 60. So that's what it means. 30, that's what makes it complicated. Instead of saying zuz, we're talking about shkalim, which are 4 shkalim. We're talking about half shkalim. But essentially, shloish chatzayin is 30 half zuzim. A zuz is 4, a shekel is 4 zuz. You're giving, instead of a full shekel, a half shekel. It's 2 zuz. So 30 times 2 is 60. Or kitcha b'shloishim, yeah, you got the idea. Kitcha b'shloishim naisim la'esem chatzayin. And if he's Makadasha with 30, which is 120 zuz, he gives it back 10 esem chatzayim, or 10 shkalim, which is 40, which again equals up to 140. The din is that wherever the makam is to give back the kesef kedushin, you have to give it back. Not in the case where he was unable to fulfill, because then we say, like we said, but where she's the one who, if she died, then that depends on the minute. But Tirguma and Hardah, they explain that this is talk about in Hardah, that's where they have that makam to give it back. Shar Bubble. What about the rest? Hardah was the main place of Bubble. What about the rest of Bubble? Rabba Vravis, Damichavayu, Moyari Hadru. Moyari, which is another type of gift that a woman gets at the time of Kedushin, that she has to give, like similar to Savloinus, Kedushay Lehadri. But Kedushin, they don't have to give back. The minig and the rest of Bubble, as you don't give back Kedushin. Amra Papa, Hilchas Ben Shemesu, Ben Shemesa. The halacha is whether he died or whether she died. Bahadur Behu, and he wasn't able to attend. Mayari Hadri, he has to return the money. Kedusha Hadri. Hadr Be'i, but if she was the one who's Mahadar, Afila Kedushin Ami Hadri. Even the Kedushin she has to return. That means he says the minig is that she has to return it. Ameimar Kedusha Hadri. Ameimar says no, Kedushim you don't give back to Kedushim for a zaitika reason. Even though the truth is the minig might be that you should return the kesef kedushin. Why not? If people see that she gives back the kedushin, the kesef kedushin, people might think she was never mekudeshes in the first place. It was never a kedushin, and therefore they'll say the person who was married to her can then go ahead and marry her sister. But it's not true. It was a valid kedushin. She just has to give back the kedushin because it was known as suin. And the truth is, the Rishonim say she has to leave over one zuz, so that it should still be a valid kedushin. But it was a valid kedushin, so we don't want her to give it back because we're worried people will misunderstand.
This is when she dies?
Yeah.
So if she dies, he can marry her sister.
You're saying, or maybe Hadra Behi, no, it's not what she dies. She just decides she doesn't want to make it a suit. Ravashi Amar, I think that's the way Rashbam explained it. You're right. That there's no Isser of Asa Achaisa when she's dead. It only lasts as long as the sister is alive. So it must be we're talking about she was Chayz.
So if she's choices, she retracted that definitely she should give it back. She decides I don't want.
No, if you say Latibuin, you hold Latibuin, then you would say that it doesn't make a difference. It was irrevocable. You gave the money to be Makadish. Now you could have done it with one zuz. We're saying the gifts go back. The gifts, you would say, that would be more questionable, right? Let's say she decided she doesn't want to get married. Does she have to give back the bracelet she got? Not so pasha. The Kesef Kedushin is the same thing. That was what he decided to give her. Ravashi Amar, Gita Meichiachala. Ravashi says, no, you don't have to worry about it because people will know she was married because she's getting a get. So that means she was married in the first place. Ravashi Badusi. When it says Ravashi's taina is not a good taina. Could be someone heard about the original wedding and they heard that she gave back the Kesef Kedushin, but they didn't hear that she got a get. So they might think that she was taka, never married, and therefore the husband could marry her sister, even though she's still alive. Okay, we're gonna have to stop over here. Okay. You think, is there any chance anyone could learn tonight? We have to at least do an Ovid. I was hoping to get an extra Ovid.